Hello everyone, I'm the Schleg Daddy, one half of the Wedge Busters, and it's time to continue my 2011 NFL season preview by taking a look at the AFC North Division. Oh, those woeful Bungles! In 2010, they finished in butt-naked last in the AFC North with a record of 4-12, thanks in large part to their 27th ranked rushing offense and their inability to get to the opposing team's quarterback, finishing 29th out of 32 teams in the league in quarterback sacks. However, the Bengals also lost a lot of close games. In fact, they lost 7 of them by 7 points or less. And as you would expect with any team that finishes 4-12, there's going to be some changes and some heads rolling in the offseason. First, you saw the demand from Carson Palmer to either be traded or he was going to retire. He didn't get traded, so you know where he is now. Chad Ochocinco, the longtime stalwart at wide receiver for the Bengals and one of the real stars of that franchise over the course of the past decade, has moved on to the New England Patriots. But surprisingly, Marvin Lewis still has a job. Why? Is it Marvin Lewis's 60-69-1 career record as Bengals head coach that gives Mike Brown a Bengal boner? Or has it been Marvin Lewis's ability as a defensive-minded coach to field at best mediocre defensive units that have allowed him to keep his job going into a 9th year now? Bengal fans, have you bought your Andy Dalton jerseys with the belief that he's going to be better than Carson Palmer was? Now, to be fair, the Bengals did provide Andy Dalton with an outstanding weapon in Georgia wide receiver A.J. Green. But the concern being that if Cedric Benson is not able to be a reliable force in the running game, Dalton is going to struggle mightily as a rookie, as most rookies without a real running game would. So when it comes to 2011, will the Bengals be able to finally generate a competent, consistent pass rush? Will Dalton be overwhelmed in his first year at the helm? Or will he be able to find a way to get the ball to his playmaker like A.J. Green or Jermaine Gresham at tight end, or even guys like Jordan Shipley and Jerome Simpson at wide receiver? Your player to watch on the Bengals most likely will be running back Bernard Scott, because as any Bear fan would tell you, and I suppose a lot of Bengal fans would tell you, relying on Cedric Benson is a very dangerous proposition indeed. And over the past 2 seasons, when Bernard Scott has gotten his opportunities at running back, he's averaged 4.3 and 4.6 yards per carry. So he's definitely somebody with some of the skill sets you would look for to bring a new dimension to that Bengals offense. Bottom line for the Bengals in 2011, this team is most likely not going to be very good. Should be Marvin Lewis's last year at the helm. I expect him to really finish no better than 4-12. And if Dalton shows them nothing as a quarterback, don't be surprised if the Bengals are looking at taking a quarterback in the first round in the 2012 draft. The Andrew Luck sweepstakes continues! Let the great professional football in the state of Ohio continue as we head over to Cleveland. The Browns in 2010 finished with a record of 5-11 to be 3rd in the AFC North. They finished 31st in points scored, 29th in overall yardage. They finished 27th versus the run, even though they did get a breakout season from Madden cover boy Peyton Hillis, and the Colt McCoy experience officially began. Well, then you watching out there may say to yourself, geez, like Daddy, the Cleveland Browns offense is pretty boo-boo. That means that they addressed that heavily in free agency in the draft, right? Ding dong, that's wrong, honkified funk fever. The Cleveland Browns decided, hey, we're going to draft defensive lineman Phil Taylor in the first round and wait to draft a Greg Little in the second round out of North Carolina to give Colt McCoy some real weapons to work with on the offensive side of the ball. Woohoo! Hey, Cleveland Browns organization, I got a question for you. When you had the chance to draft Sanchez in 2009 and you dumped back a bunch of different times and ended up drafting Alex Mack, how did that work out for you? Not very well. So you decided that worked out so poorly that you were going to repeat history again in 2011, and instead of giving Colt McCoy a legitimate stud like Julio Jones at wide receiver, you traded back and drafted Phil Taylor. And people wonder why the Cleveland Browns have primarily been one big steaming pile of grade A monkey crap since they came back into the league in 1999. What to look for then out of the Browns in 2011 under new coach Pat Shurmur? That's right, that's who Mike Holmgren decided was going to take his Browns organization and really take them to the next level. Their defense should at least, if nothing else, be solid and help keep that Browns team in some games. Ultimately, the question of how well the 2011 season is going to go for Cleveland is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. Is Colt McCoy going to make strides in year number 2 of the Colt McCoy experience and show that he can at least be a viable starting quarterback in the NFL? Is Peyton Hillis going to have a repeat performance of his breakthrough 2010 campaign? History tells you Madden cover boys tend to struggle in the year that they're featured on the Madden cover. So then that comes to Montario Hardesty, last year's second-round pick. Is he going to step up and become the man in the backfield for Cleveland? Are they going to get anything at all out of the wide receiver position between Muhammad Massaquoi and Greg Little? These are all serious questions, and for a Browns team that has struggled so mightily on offense in recent years, they sure don't seem to take it that seriously, and they sure as hell don't seem to want to do a lot to fix the problems. What do I think the Cleveland Browns are going to do in 2011? I'll say they'll finish 6-10 and finish 3rd in the AFC North, and I do think the player to watch on that team is Greg Little, because if Greg Little could come in and be a weapon on the outside for Colt McCoy, then at least the Browns can make some progress offensively. If not, that team's just going to be bad. The Baltimore Ravens, or as I like to call them, the Fighting Ray Lewises, had a very strong 2010 campaign. They finished 12-4 in second place in the AFC North and ended up losing to the Steelers in the divisional round of the playoffs. They did this behind a defense that ranked 3rd in points allowed, and they also saw Flacco's best season as a quarterback in year number 3 of his career. Even though he kind of scuffled his feet early on in 2010, he really started to pick up some steam and momentum as the year progressed. However, at times, the Ravens in 2010 struggled to put the ball in the end zone on offense, and on defense struggled as they have in years past to stop the other team's passing game. And a troubling statistic last year was that the Ravens finished in a tie for 27th in sacks. So the Ravens in the offseason felt that secondary was a tremendous concern for them and attempted to address that by bringing in Bernard Pollard. Yep, the same guy that fucked Tom Brady's knee up from the Houston Texans. They hope he comes in and provides a real presence opposite Ed Reed at safety. And then they also drafted cornerback Jimmy Smith in the first round. On offense, they felt that they really needed to complement Anquan Boldin's physical presence at receiver by getting more of a speed threat, which they got from the Buffalo Bills and Lee Evans. What to look for out of the Ravens in 2011? Is this the year that Joe Flacco goes from just being a good NFL quarterback to being the unquestioned franchise quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens? Will Ray Rice recover from a slightly below expectations 2010 campaign? Will Lee Evans and Anquan Boldin prove a viable 1-2 combination on the outside for Flacco to throw to? And will Ed Dixon and Dennis Pita be able to fill the void that was left by the departure of veteran tight end Todd Heap? On the defensive side of the ball, ultimately, that's still Ray Lewis's side, baby. He gonna kill you. No. I mean, he gonna kill you. But there are some questions there. They finished 27th in the league in sacks. Are they going to be able to generate a more consistent pass rush on opposing teams' quarterbacks? Because if they're not able to, as we've seen in recent years, the Ravens secondary is not up to snuff of what it used to be, and they will get torched. If they can improve that pass rush, that will assist that secondary some. And when you combine that with the influx of talent that they've brought in, that's what you have to look for out of the Ravens. They're stout against the run and have been for a long time. But is their pass defense going to step it up a little bit? And are the Ravens ultimately going to take that division back from the Steelers? Your player, or players in this case, to watch for the Baltimore Ravens in 2011, first off is nose tackle Terrence Cody. The second-year man out of Alabama showed at times in Nick Saban's defense that he could be an unblockable, unstoppable force in the middle. And when you're running a lot of 3-4 looks, that nose tackle sometimes, as much as the 3-4 rush outside backer is focused on, the nose tackle is the key to what really makes a 3-4 defense go. See guys such as Ted Washington, Jamal Williams, and Casey Hampton, need I say more. And then there's this guy. Ray's entering his 16th season, and you start to wonder how much longer he's going to play. And I have to say, me as a Chicago Bear fan, and me as an ardent Dick Butkus supporter, understands that Ray Lewis is probably the best all-around middle linebacker that has ever played the game. Not only has he dominated the game, he has dominated the game for a decade and a half. And no other middle linebacker can boast that. And I just hope everybody takes the opportunity and appreciates the greatness that Ray Lewis is, was, and probably will be again in 2011 before you look back and you say, man, I wish I would have appreciated just how great Ray was. And he kills people. I expect the Ravens in 2011 to finish around 11-5 and probably be banging with the Steelers all year in that divisional race. The AFC North is a two-team race. Don't kid yourself if you're a Bungle or a Dookie Browns fan. The question is, can the Ravens overtake them? I don't think so. I do think 11-5 and a wild card spot is where the Ravens will end up. The Steelers in 2010 finished 12-4 and won the AFC North and eventually got all the way to the Super Bowl before losing to the Green Bay Packers 31-25. The most impressive thing about the Steelers season besides the Super Bowl appearance last year was the fact that they started off the season 3-1 without their rapist of a starting quarterback, an alleged rapist, in Big Ben Roethlisberger. When a team is able to start the season 3-1 without their franchise quarterback at the helm, you know they're probably a very, very good all-around football team and could go a long ways. They've finished first in points allowed on defense, second in yards allowed, and would you expect anything less out of the Steelers? You really wouldn't. And they also, on offense, got a solid, if not spectacular, performance from Rashard Mendenhall and an absolutely fine breakout campaign from wide receiver Mike Wallace. What should you look for out of the Steelers in 2011? We'll start on offense. They should feature a balanced attack between the run and the pass as they have in recent years, even if Big Ben's skill sets dictate that he could do more in the passing game. Will Rashard Mendenhall take that step from being just a very good NFL running back to being an elite running back? Will Hines Ward's skills continue to decline? And will anybody else step up to provide a real number 2 option opposite the breakout star of 2010 in Mike Wallace? On defense, it all starts with that phenomenal linebacking core, easily the best linebacking core in the NFL. The questions for the Steelers come in with their front three and their secondary. Is that front three going to be more stout at the point of attack? And are they going to be able to generate some pass rush themselves? And in the secondary, are the Steelers, it's a position they've struggled with over the years, finding real solid play at the cornerback position. Do they finally have the right guys there to provide better than mediocre play at corner? Your player to watch for the Steelers is first-round pick Cameron Jr. Ironhead Hayward, the defensive end out of Ohio State. They need him, the Steelers do, to come in and be a real pass-rushing presence at end in that 3-4 scheme. Even though I don't think the Steelers got a lot better in the offseason, I sure don't think they got a lot worse. Now, there is something to previous Super Bowl losers coming back the next year and struggling, but I think the Steelers have a solid foundation where that shouldn't be a problem for them. They went 12-4 last year with Big Ben missing the first 4 games. So I do think that they'll win the AFC North, probably with a record again somewhere in the 12-4 or 13-3 area. Thanks, everyone, for watching. This has been the Schleg Daddy from the Wedge Busters. Let me know down below what you think of the AFC North in 2011, and don't forget to click that little subscribe button up there. Up next will be my preview of the AFC South.